So let's talk about marriage a little bit. After the wedding, after the honeymoon, after just all the newness of the excitement of the relationship begins to wear off, how do you keep love strong? Have you ever wondered that? I think all of us have thought that before. We've all seen examples of love that has lasted and love that hasn't. We maybe experienced love that hasn't before, and so that's always the question. Well, how do we make this love last? What do we do to keep it strong? What do we do to keep this thing going, to improve it, to just be strong, right? Well, the best answer I have found has been in a book that Gary Chapman actually wrote a number of years ago called The 5 Love Languages. And there's a lot of good books out there and a lot of good information, and the scripture's full of stuff. But man, this put it all in one little container for me. And over the years, I have suggested many couples to look at this book, to read it, because it's so practical. How many of you read this book before? A lot of you have. So a lot of you haven't. So for some, this could be new information. For others, it's just good to review this stuff once in a while. We actually did a series on this a few years ago. We took 1 week at a time and looked at each one of these. And I'm not going to do that. We're just kind of wrapping it up into one day. But he suggests 5 love languages, that there are 5 languages we speak that communicate to me that this is how I know you love me, right? And there's 5 basic ones, and you're going to have at least one of these will be dominant. Sometimes maybe 2 at the most will be like dominant. All of these will apply in some way, but there are 1 to 2 ways that you communicate to me that you love me, and that I communicate to my spouse or the people around me that I love them. and it's fairly simple. You got the list up there. You have their words of affirmation, your quality time, your receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. And for the most part, they're about what you think. It's not like really difficult to figure this stuff out. But let's work through this. Words of affirmation, it's positive verbal reinforcement, and Scripture gives us all kinds of insight that words are important. And the words we choose to say can lift people's spirits or lower them. Proverbs 25:11 says, "A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a setting of silver." Proverbs 16:24 says, "Gracious words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the body." Everybody likes to hear positive words, right? Everybody likes to have affirmation to what they're doing in life. But when you have as your primary love language words of affirmation, it's like speaks life into you. It's more than just a compliment. It really speaks life into you and into your relationship. You all love to hear, "Hey, great job. Hey, I like the way you look in that sweater." Those are great. But they speak value to someone who has this as their love language. It screams, "I love you," every time you compliment someone. So you can energize, if your spouse has this love language, words of affirmation, you can literally energize them every day of the week with a simple compliment, with a simple statement. You probably think it anyway, but if you don't say it and they don't hear it, they're not hearing those words, "I love you." "Hey, good job on that thing you did." "Hey, you look nice today." "Thank you for doing whatever. You made a meal, you helped me with a project," whatever it was, "thank you." Just a simple thank you. Doesn't cost you anything. It's not a lot of effort, but it speaks volumes to someone who has this as their primary love language. Now, there's also a negative side to this. Proverbs 12:18 says, "Rash language cuts and maims, but there is healing in the words of the wise." People can say things to you that will just cut you down, especially if your love language is words of affirmation. They're not just cutting you, and we've all had it happen, right? They're not just cutting you down, but they're communicating, "I hate you," which is a pretty strong language. But if that's your love language, even though that's not what they mean, and that's not what they're saying, that's what you're hearing from them. So your words are amplified by people who have this as their primary love language, words of affirmation. So if you make a demand, you need to do this. If you use guilt as a ploy to get people to do something, or you pull rank on them, that may not seem like a big deal to you, but someone who has words of affirmation as their primary love language, that is like a sword piercing their heart. My wife, Cheryl, her love language, her primary one is really words of affirmation. So if I come up to her and say, "I am your husband, I demand you do whatever, mow the yard," it doesn't matter what it is, she might, out of respect, say, "Oh, okay, but I'll like kill a little piece of our relationship right there. She'll resent every minute. If her boss comes up to her and says, "I'm the boss, I want you to do this," She'll do it out of respect, but he'll kill part of that relationship, injure it. Kill is a very strong word because it can be revived. So you have to be careful with people whose primary love language is words of affirmation, because you can either build them up or tear them down because they take words that you speak to heart. Secondly is quality time. It's what you'd think, spending time with people. I want to be with you. Instead of doing this, I'm with you. And that says to me, oh, you love me. You value me as a person. You want to be with me. That speaks love to me. And it's not that you have to be with them every moment of the day, but the fact that you took time out of your day that you could do something else speaks to them, I love you. Could be going on a walk, could be watching a game together, it could be sitting down to a meal together, it could be just hanging out in the same room together. We're just together. We're hanging out, and someone with that as their primary love language, absolutely love this. Again, there can be a negative side to this as well. You have to be there if you're there, right? Have you ever been in a conversation where you're not paying at all attention to what's going on? I mean, I'm guilty of this, so I can, they're telling you, maybe Cheryl's telling me about her day, and I'm quietly thinking about my day rather than listening to her, or I'm watching the fly on the wall behind her going like, oh, that's really crazy looking fly, man, that thing's huge, and she knows I'm not listening, or she's talking to me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just, yeah. Oh, hey, did you know what Sam did yesterday? Sit right here on Facebook. Matter of fact, I just see something that Jack did today. It's you're there, but you're not there. You're not present, and that's the negative side of saying I'm with you, but I don't value you as much as I value what I'm doing or what I'm thinking about or what this other thing going on in the other room. I'm watching that. So the best way to combat that, if your spouse's love language is quality time, you'll be extra sensitive to say, you know what, I'm putting this puppy down when I'm at a meal time or whatever time that your spouse says is important, because it doesn't mean you have to put your phone away forever or your iPad or it doesn't mean you don't get to have a life, but be extra specially, put that on the radar. Be respectful of them in that way, and be make eye contact, right? Be engaged in the conversation, because that speaks volumes to someone whose love language is quality time. Jesus is talking to his disciples one time, and he's a little irritated with them because they're not getting it. He's talking, and they're like, yeah, I don't know, maybe they're watching the fish. I don't know. They're just out at sea. They don't know. And he finally says in Mark 8, do you have eyes but fail to see and ears but fail to hear? Like, hello, are you even here? Are you involved in this relationship we have going here? That's not a marital relationship, but like I say, it's true with any relationship. It's so important that when we're spending quality time with people, we're spending time with them. It's disrespectful to anyone, but to someone who has this as a love language, it's a cut to the heart. It's saying, I'm not important. Third one is receiving gifts. It's about what you'd expect, receiving gifts, right? Some people love to receive gifts. It's not that they're greedy. They don't need to have gold bars given to them. I mean, it could be a flower from the front yard. It could be a handwritten card. The item isn't important. The thought that you thought about them is what's important. It says, wow, you really care about me. You were at work and you called a florist. Wow, that's crazy. I mean, you had a meeting to go to and you thought about me. So that communicates you love them. If receiving gifts is their love language. Do you remember the time that a woman came to Jesus with an extremely expensive jar of perfume? And she pours it on his feet, and she's in tears, and she's wiping his feet with her hair, and there's this great moment between this woman and Jesus. And the disciples are looking at her like, you crazy woman. We could have, that's like a huge amount of money. We could have fed the poor with that. We could have done so many good things with that. What is wrong with you? Well, how could you possibly waste it in such a way? And Jesus says, why, in Matthew chapter 26, why do you trouble the woman? She's done a beautiful thing for me. You see, what she was doing in her way was saying, Jesus, you are the most valuable thing in the world. I love you. I value you. This is yours. It wasn't even perfume to wear to the next day. It was just poured on his feet. Now, there were some deeper spiritual things there that was going on, but it was a gift given. And if your love language is receiving gifts, man, that speaks volumes to you. And not receiving gifts speaks volumes too. Oh, you don't think about me. Oh, you don't care so much about me. I'm not that important to you. So you have to be careful on that. Number 4, acts of service refers to an act of service, a tangible thing that someone might do for you. Now, service is a lifestyle that we're taught in the Bible, so just as believers, we should be people of service. To Christian slaves, the Apostle Paul says in Ephesians 6, serve wholeheartedly as if you were serving the Lord. So you go to work, you just serve. You work as if you're working for Jesus, even though the people around you may not even believe in Jesus. You're doing it for God, so you serve. Galatians, Paul says to believers not to be caught up in the sinful nature, but rather serve one another in love. Peter writes about spiritual gifts, and he says, each one should use whatever gift he's received to serve others, faithfully administering God's grace in its various forms. So, acts of service in the context of marriage would be doing those little things that your spouse would like you to do. Maybe it's on their agenda that they normally do as their normal job description, but you just do it anyway. Or maybe it's whoever sees it first. If you see it first, just do it. Just serve your spouse in that way. Could be taking out the trash, making the bed, feeding the dog, washing the dishes, dusting the shelves, anything. Little things speak volumes. It says, wow, you care about me enough to know that I like to have the little figurines dusted, and you did that when I know it doesn't matter to you. That says, I love you to someone who has this as a love language. Acts of service require some thought. Especially if that's not your thing. If it doesn't bother you that the pair of socks are on the floor, you can walk right by it, so you have to kind of engage your mind and think, I better pick those up because that's what my spouse desires. It's a service for them. It takes a little bit of time, maybe some energy and effort, and some effort. But again, it communicates loudly to the person, I love you. I love you so much, I'm going to do this for you. Because I love you. That's because I wouldn't do it on my own. And that's how they hear I love you is for you doing those little acts of service. When Danielle was in preschool, she was a little thing. We would there was a time of the week every week when Cheryl would be gone and we were there, and so we just kind of made it our thing where every week at this time we cleaned out the kitchen, we took the table and the chairs and put them in the living room, and we swept everything down and mopped the floor, and we had one of those floors you had to wax it, and we'd wax the floor every week. And I was doing two things. When I was teaching a preschooler, hey, this is how you clean a house, and this is how you wax and mop and that kind of stuff. It was, everybody needs to learn that at some point. But two, it was this great little act of service that we did for Sarah, because she would come home and like it was just like her eyes would light up, like, I was going to have to do that later or something. And we had done it for her, and so it became like this weekly thing of our little way of saying, we love you, we love you, and showing our daughter how to love her mom. It's a little act of service, a simple thing. Wasn't big, wasn't huge, didn't cost me any money. I got some mop and glow for $3 or something, but no big deal. Doing something that the other person loves. And the last one is the physical touch. Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 2 says, "Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine." Here's a woman who says, "I just want to feel you. I just kiss me on the lips. Just feel." The Song of Solomon is filled with a celebration of the physical touch, and sometimes our minds will. Maybe you might go to the conclusion that maybe physical touch is all about the intimacy, deeper intimacy, but it's much more than that. That's not really the point of physical touch. It's you're touching my body, which is touching me, which you're touching my soul. So it could be just walking down the street holding hands, says, "Man, this person loves me." A little PDA. Just holding hands. It could be sitting next to me on the couch and our legs overlapping on the ottoman or something. It could be anything like that. Snuggling, an unsolicited back rub, just walking by and reaching out and hugging the person. Those are communicating to the person whose love language is primarily physical touch. I love you. I love you. I'm thinking of you right now, and let me just embrace you. Nothing else. Just an embrace. I love to watch people come off an airplane after a long trip, because what do when they see the family? They like immediately embrace, right? And you just know there's some story there. There's some it's a display of affection. I don't hug anybody else when I get off the plane. Stranger, oh, you're selling cookies, no. But if I see my wife, my children, it's a hug. Oh, I love you. It's communicating. I love you. Oh, I'm glad to see you. I've missed you. We've been apart too long. That type of thing. It's communicating. I love you. So these are the 5 love languages. It's an overview. If you buy the book, if you've never read it, read the book. You can actually Google it, and it's online. You can listen to it online for free. I listened to it again this week just to kind of refresh my mind while I was out and about doing stuff. These are the basic 5 love languages. And like I said, you will generally score high on 1 or 2, and the other 3 probably not so much. What this information does is it tells you exactly how to build and keep a strong love. It's one thing to just know the information, but it's what you do with this information that will make or break a marriage long term. It's critical stuff. So I'm going to give you 4 steps, and this is the simple part here. 4 steps to a lasting love. I know it's a little cliche, 4 steps, blah, 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 but really it's real. It's real. I was even trying to change it. I thought, no, these are really 4 steps. These are 4 steps. You do this, and if your marriage is strained right now, it will improve it. If your marriage is healthy right now, it'll make it even healthier. It's amazing. I've seen it over and over again. Number 1, identify your spouse's love language. This is big. Do you know, if you're married, do you know your spouse's love language? Lean over right now, tell them what it is. Take a moment, go ahead. Your love language is, okay, I'm whispering so people won't hear you. Okay, now, lean back over and let them correct you. This is what it really is. Identify their love language. This is so important. If my love language is receiving gifts, I'm going to assume yours is too. It's like everything. It's like the personality stuff. It's all this stuff. I assume everybody communicates like I do. I assume everybody receives love like I do. So here's my deal. If my love language is receiving gifts and I got married to someone, I'm going to assume that's how they receive love. So I'm going to buy them things. I'm going to get them things. But let's say their love language is gifts of service. I'm buying them cars and books and flowers and rings and jewelry. And the whole time they're thinking, why doesn't he love me? Why doesn't she love me? Because she leaves dirty socks on the floor, and he never lowers the toilet seat, and whatever, all the little things. And he's going, but I tell you every day. That means you're speaking a different language. This is why you have to know your spouse's love language. And I'm telling you, this isn't a joke. Really find out what it is. Have a conversation this week if you haven't figured it out, or if you don't know already. Do it. There's a test if you're on our Facebook page. Just Google the 5 language quiz. You can take the quiz for free, and it'll give you a pretty good clue. But you probably already know. But if you don't take the quiz, it's fun. It's real quick, and you can do it. And find out what your spouse's love language is, because it's so important. If Cheryl speaks Russian, and I don't understand Russian, she can tell me all day long, I love you in Russian, and I will never hear it. I'll just think, I don't know what, there's a bug on this table. A box elder bug. It's on my shirt? Oh, it was? You didn't hear a word I've said the last half. If she speaks Russian and I don't understand Russian, it'll be just like that. All they're doing is looking at that bug. They have no clue what's been said. I won't know that she's saying I love you because I'm not hearing it. She has to learn English so I can hear it in my language. Same thing with these 5 languages. Know your spouse's language so you can speak it to them. Otherwise, what happens is the relationship begins to shrivel up. That's what these balloons are all about. I got a really nice, full, beautiful helium balloon on Wednesday and put it in my office. And you know what it looked like last night when I came home from my little missions conference? It's the one hanging below. See, we leak. You know on the wedding day you did the vows, everybody loves you, blah, blah, blah. I said, at some point in the relationship, you know you're in love, but that thing leaks. That knowledge leaks. And pretty soon you start wondering, unless your spouse is communicating in your love language, at some point, I don't care who you are, you start to wonder, do they even love me anymore? I'm not sure. I don't know if they love me. I bought this one this morning. This one was, I asked them to fill it halfway, so it would be halfway, and it already leaked. It's only been from this morning. That's how quickly we leak. You have to continually fill the tank. That's number 2. Don't underestimate your spouse's love tank. Because we do leak. This whole idea of love leaks. Usually by the time people come to speak to me about their marriage problems, they're down there. There's nothing left. They're feeling empty. I got nothing. I got nothing for this guy. I got nothing for this gal. It's over. It's done. And they don't even really even want me to do a miracle for them. I'll pray for you. Yeah, whatever. They've already decided it's over. They just want to make it look like they tried. So come talk to the preacher. He's free, and we can tell people, oh, we talked to the preacher. But in their mind, it's over. Right? What happened was they haven't been feeding each other's love tanks. They haven't been filling it. It got empty. Now the beautiful thing is, I could untie this balloon and fill it with helium, and it'd be full again. It can be fixed. And I always tell people that, but they don't believe me. That's why I say this is so huge. This is so huge. You can refill the tank. You can at any moment, you can at this moment, you can leave today and say, wow, I've not done a very good job filling your tank. I'm going to start. And you can have that awkward conversation and do it. And you will have a stronger marriage by the end of the week. Depending on how empty you got, it might take 2 weeks. It might take a month. It'll take quicker. It'll be quicker than what it took you to get there, though. Because you already have a good background. There's some forgiveness and other stuff to get in there, potentially. But that tank has to be continually filled. Do not underestimate your spouse's love tank. I don't care how much they love Jesus. I don't care how much. Like last week, if you were here, I believe it's important for every Christian person to go into marriage saying, this thing is permanent forever. There's no turning back. Okay, even that person will find themselves empty. And that just means they're miserable. You have the power to help your spouse not be miserable forever by filling their tank. Because they can be committed to Jesus and they're going to stick with you even though they're empty. Why would you do that to them? Why would you do that to you? Fill their tank. Don't underestimate your spouse's love tank. Which leads to number 3, big step, purposely fill your spouse's love tank. I said weekly, I don't know what that means, daily, it depends on, I don't know, just keep filling, make sure it doesn't get here. Start looking around. If they're moping around and you're, whatever, maybe half the problem is the tank is empty. And you just need to fill it up. Fill their tank. Go pick a neighbor's flower and give it to them. Whatever their love language is, compliment them. Give them a hug. It's all those little things. Continually speak their language. It goes back to that. You have to know their language. Don't assume it's yours. It's probably not yours. It's probably not yours. Speak their language. And here's the thing. You have to do it unsolicited to really count. If they have to keep saying, I sure would like the neighbor's flowers in my vase here, then they know when you finally get that flower, they know you did it because they guilted you into it, or, it wasn't that you wanted to, you just finally, okay, I'll do the stupid flower, Do it when they're not expecting it. Do it unsolicited. They're walking by, reach out and grab them and give them a hug. Plant a good old kiss on the lips. Ew, gross. Well, not to them. You just said, I love you. Give them that which one have I missed? Spend some time with them. Schedule, hey, we're going to hang out tonight and do popcorn. Whatever their love language is, you have to do that regularly. Filling the tank requires taking some initiative. You can't coast into a healthy, strong marriage. You can't coast into a 30-year-long marriage. It takes effort and initiative to spend time with them, to give them a gift. You got to think things through. You got to serve them in some way. Figure out what really would serve them, not what would really secretly serve me. Well, I also would like it if the sink was cleaned out. No, what serves them? Give them that compliment. Whatever it is, unsolicited tank filling often. And if you do that, that leads to number 4. This is the big fireworks. You live happily ever after. Honestly, it's that simple. It's just not complicated. And it sounds a little fairy tale-ish, doesn't it? A little Disney-ish. You should sing a song or something right now, and smile. But you know what? Isn't that worth trying? Isn't that worth trying? None of this is that difficult. None of this is like torture. It shouldn't be. Figure out your spouse's love language. Keep that tank full. Do it unsolicited. That leads to amazing joy in your marriage. That takes you right there. It takes you there. You'll never have a perfect marriage. Okay? As long as 2 imperfect people are in it. And anytime there's 2 people in it, there's 2 imperfect people in it. Okay, so don't overshoot and say, if I'm not in marital bliss at all moments, this is terrible. But you will have a joy-filled, long-lasting, loving marriage if you'll do this. Will you give it a try?